Let's welcome our first guest to the programme. Appropriate music as well. An absolute legend. I've been speaking to him now for over 10 years. He is the publisher of the Essential Trends Journal. Do check it out at trendsresearch.com. He's been accurately predicting trends for more years than he cares to remember. We're talking about geopolitical and economic trends, and my word is gold. I recommend very little on this programme, but I recommend the journal. That's trendsresearch.com. Let's welcome back to the show our old friend Gerald Celente. Gerald, welcome back.
Yeah, Richie, thanks so much for having me.
Great to have you on. Bit of New York state of mind there. Billy Joel leading into you. You can't go wrong with that. My partner, my fiancée, Gerald, is French. She's from the town of Nancy in the northeast of France. They have a lovely turn of phrase there. When something is ridiculous or is hysterically funny, they say it is cinema. And she says to me, my fiancée, she says, looking at the Trump situation, the presidency of Donald Trump, the Mueller investigations, the allegations of collusion with Russia, she says it's just pure cinema, pure theatre. Have you ever witnessed anything like this in your life?
Well, it's not only here, it's all over. And, I call it, there used to be a circus show, Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey, and they call it the greatest show on earth. This is the greatest freak show on earth. Name the country, look at the clown. Look at that little cazzone Macron who just came over here and sucking up to Trump like a little boy of nothing that he is. How May over there launched missile strikes with these other two little freaks against Syria with information based on nothing. And the arrogance these little people of nothing are and have, that they decide what they're going to do for the rest of the nations, and the people bow down, suck up, and take it you know where as what they throw out and put out. What's going on? How can anybody let this keep going? Where is the outrage and the arrogance of all these people? And the populations are a bunch of little cowards. That's the way I see it.
It's the Macron visit to Trump is quite something, and he addressed Congress today before we talk more about Trump and his domestic problems, and he attacked nationalism, which was kind of expected of him. Nationalism in isolation was not only a threat to global prosperity, but it was also a threat to the environment, he said. But then he also said that France wouldn't support a tearing up of the Iran deal, which some people might say is not a bad thing. But on the nationalism and isolationism thing, there are a lot of people who read the journal, they follow you wherever you happen to be speaking, and they believe that national identity, pride in your country and in the achievements of your country and what your country can do is under attack. Do you see it like that?
Of course it is. It's globalism. Globalism has taken over. I mean, they want to turn the whole world into slavelandia where you work for the multinationals. Name the country and name the huge multinationals running the damn places. That's all it is. Now, you look at the lifestyle and the earnings of people since, for example, since the EU was formed. How about the FU? And look at the people's standard of living. So, and in the United States, the same thing with all these rotten trade agreements. I mean, what do we have? A $375 billion yearly trade deficit with China? Who would do business on those terms? 71 billion with Mexico? And all it does is help the multinationals and the big retailers getting their stuff made in slave labor countries, marking up the prices, bringing it back and selling it to the little folks in Slavelandia. Look at that guy we got over here with running Bezos running Amazon, worth $110 billion. What does the average Amazon worker make? Oh, about $13 and change an hour. Oh, great. You can live really great like that. So, of course, a guy like a little boy of nothing, Macron, Of course, he's a Rothschild
Yeah,
protege.
yeah.
I'm not making that up. It's a fact. That's all they're interested in. The banksters are stealing more of our money and making themselves richer. We have three people in the United States, Bezos, Gates, and Buffett, that have more money than 60% of us combined.
Which is
Where's the outrage?
Do you know, there might be some outrage coming, though, because, well, before we talk about the reaction to the bombing of Syria, which I think I'm noticing it, Gerald. I'm obviously in Manchester in the northwest of England, but I am noticing that there's more outrage than ever before for that, and there's more skepticism about the claims that Assad used chemical weapons. So we'll talk about the outrage in a minute. Trump's supporters, and now I'm a supporter of no politician, never have been. His supporters say that he really does want to bring manufacturing jobs back to the US, that he would prefer to set up companies, factories all over the country to build the things that the US has been buying from China and elsewhere, which you've talked about for years. And his supporters say that fundamentally, deep down, this guy is really interested in doing that, but he's been attacked from day one from all sides and he's not being allowed to do it. Are they right, or are they fantasizing?
They're right on that. He's been attacked from day one. I mean, I remember the headline story from USA Today: new president enters White House with 74 lawsuits against him, or something like that. And, you know, that little clown Comey with his book now, 600,000 copies, former FBI agent. You know, I mean, it's been the Russians, the propaganda, on and on. Yes, that has hurt Trump. And that's one of the few things I support him on. And that is the bringing back of our jobs and redoing these terrible trade agreements. But then on the other hand, look at the military-industrial complex that he's built even bigger.
Yeah.
You know, and look at the debt that he's given us. It's even deeper. Look at the tax cuts. Look at the tax cuts that he gave his buddies. Do you know what the average American family got from the Trump tax cuts?
No.
On average, $930 a year, according to the Brookings Institute, which is hardly a left-wing group. Now, we just had a 40-cent rise in oil prices over the year. That cut into half of that $900. Big deal. Meanwhile, the rich got richer. Look at what stock buybacks are going to be over $800 billion this year. That's what they're doing with that money that Trump gave them. So he's just enriching himself and his buddies on that end.
And we'll talk about the investigations into him in a couple of minutes. If you've just tuned in, Gerald Celente, old friend of ours, is live on the line. We're glad to have him. Love getting trends on the news and Gerald's take on what's going on geopolitically and economically as well. Check out trendsresearch.com and do subscribe to the journal. If you are somebody who is of a mind to subscribe to publications, it doesn't get any better than that. Gerald, the reaction to the claims that Assad used chemical weapons on his own people, I have to say I'm heartened. And I've not been around quite as long as you. You're not that much older than me, but I've not been covering this stuff anywhere near as long as you have. But I've never known such we've seen people managing to get on to national news, which we never saw before. Credible people saying this is a nonsense. Assad's army and the Russians are on the march in Syria. They've driven the jihadists back. He would never use these weapons. I've never seen anything like it. People in their droves getting on to national TV to say we've had enough of this. I'm heartened by that. You said where's the outrage earlier. I think we might be just seeing a bit of it. What do you think?
Well, you're seeing a little bit over there, but not over here at all. All we had is the prostitutes bringing on, you know, the line that there's enough evidence. And matter of fact, you look at the New York Times, they call themselves the paper of record. They're the toilet paper of record. They're a piece of garbage. It's only good for one thing. They sold us the Iraq war with the lies of Saddam Hussein. with his yellow cake and aluminum tubes and on, and the Washington Post. And both of those newspapers and most of the media in the States have come out not only applauding Trump for sending those missiles in, but they should do more. And the same thing with the so-called Democratic Party. They should do more. It wasn't enough. So no, the prostitutes, that's, one of the words I've coined, and they get paid to put out by their corporate Johns and their Washington whoremasters. We're not hearing any other side. As a matter of fact, Richie, take a look at the polls. 58% of Americans supported Trump's missile strike that, by the way, cost us, just in missiles, over $120 million.
Wow. That's extraordinary. You are aware, I know you're aware, but whenever you come and speak with us, you bring a lot of people with you because you have a lot of readers, of course, and a lot of people who watch and listen to your broadcasts. So for people who've come and joined the programme tonight to hear Gerald, it must be pointed out that the UK incurred a similar expense, but the current Prime Minister of the country, Theresa May, her husband, Philip, manages a hedge fund which has huge amounts of shares in BAE Systems, whose share price went up, skyrocketed, when the UK joined the bombing of Syria. That's kind of disgusting, Gerald, isn't it? That you have such an obvious conflict of interest there.
Yeah, I read about that, of course. Again, it's the military-industrial complex. The last president, that I had any respect for, it was Eisenhower. And I was a little kid, by the way, and I saw him campaigning. As a little kid, I saw Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Nixon. I even touched Kennedy's hand as the motorcade was pulling away. Now they'd shoot me, right?
That's incredible, amazing.
I was about 13 years old. And anyway, Eisenhower was a 5-star general, the supreme commander of the Allied forces in World War II, and of course a 2-term president in the United States. And anybody could go look it up, his farewell address in January of 1961. This is a man, when you look up his quotes, he hated war, and he knew that only sick people started them. And his famous farewell address was that the military-industrial complex was robbing the nation of the genius of the scientists, the sweat of the laborers, and the future of the children. And then you got a guy like Trump over there that there's a little boy again, never fought. He avoided the draft, Vietnam War, as I did, and I admit. But fat boy over there, so I had a bone spur. His old man bought him off.
Yeah.
That's how he got out. Could you imagine Macron or Obama or little Georgie Bush or slick Willie Clinton getting in a fight man to man? As we would say in the Bronx, you wouldn't know whether to piss or shit. And you could say those words, by the way.
You can.
I saw in The Guardian, they actually repeated the words of a New York Times reporter talking about Hillary Clinton, and they used the F word and spelled it out. And of course, Trump called all those African nations shithole nations. So I could say shit, and they also say piss. And these guys wouldn't know whether to shit or piss if you grabbed them by their neck and you threw them up against the wall. Boy, did they talk tough with all their little guys dressed up in military drag, saluting them. Look at the little freak show that they had over here yesterday at the White House with all these little boys and girls dressed up in their military drag and putting on a performance for the clown in chief and the rest of them. And we pay that money to roll out the red carpet and give these little freaks their jerk-off sessions live from Washington, D.C. It's the presidential reality show.
When John Bolton was appointed as National Security Advisor, the first person I thought of was you. I said, what's going on in the offices of the Trends Journal? Because speaking of cowardly freak shows who are happy to sacrifice the blood of young American men and women overseas, they don't get more rabid or more insane than John Bolton. Was that the end of it, really, for people who had trusted Trump and put all their hopes into him? When Bolton turned up and Trump appointed him, that must have been game over, Gerald.
No, the game over was right after Trump got elected.
Yeah.
And what did he do? A year ago, April, it was 59 missiles into Syria. Look at him shooting off his mouth about we got to kill the Iran deal. And fat mouth Trump keeps coming. You know, it was the worst deal. We gave him $150 billion. You didn't give him anything. It was their money that they stole under the Carter administration, along with it was almost $400 billion that they wouldn't give back to the Iranians. And also there was a deal, a weapons deal that the Shah made, and they never delivered the weapons. We didn't give them back any money. It's an outright lie. So no, Trump's always been a freak. You know, I mean, look at this guy. You know why he's bending over and doing what he's told? When the FBI broke into his attorney's office and got all that information, they got enough dirt on this guy to build Mount Everest. Yeah. Between his dirty business deals and whatever he did in his private life, you know, sexually, they got enough stuff on this guy. Could you imagine being married and having every day a new scandal coming out? Do you realize what his life is like?
It's a strange dynamic, that, isn't it? I mean, pictures tell us, you know, paint 1,000 words, video images of the pair of them together, even her conduct during the inauguration. It must be a desperately miserable life for both of them, I would have said. For him as well as her, yeah.
Of course. I mean, you know, anyway, you know, that's, again, I got to hear about Stormy Daniels. What do I care?
Yeah.
But that's the American media. It's not fake news. It's lies, propaganda, and stupidity.
Folks, the Trends Journal, trendsresearch.com. We've got Gerald for another 5 or 6 minutes. I want to just talk briefly about, you see, people will say, there are people listening to this program who will agree with everything you've said, and they will say they can't figure out why the FBI and others seem determined to bring him down when he would appear to be doing pretty much that which the deep state, which the warmongers, the military-industrial complex want him to do. So they can't understand what's going on. It's a bit of a paradox, really. Why are they moving on him when he's doing pretty much what everybody who came before him did? What do you think?
Well, this has to do with the Democrats. You know, they're losing the election. And also he's an outsider from both parties. And they want to keep it within the party. And all this is just a continuation of the Obama years. And again, what do you think? I mean, if people grow up, what do you think? These people get elevated to high levels in bureaucracy because of their intelligence?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and professionalism? It's because they suck up and bow down the best. Listen, I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate at 23 years old. It was the most disgusting job I ever had in my life, to watch grown men grovel. And that's all this is. So what you're seeing going on with the anti-Trump movement, this is just a continuation of the Obama administration. Arrogant Obama, people could look it up. You know, folks, as he's campaigning for Clinton, and he campaigned more than any sitting president ever campaigned for a new candidate. You know, my reputation's on the line. And if you want to keep my legacy going, folks, you got to vote for Hillary Clinton, folks. So this is people couldn't stand Obama, and now he's being promoted as though, oh, it's so sad that he went. He put his legacy on the line, and Clinton lost. And the reason Clinton lost is because she's a disgusting human being. And people had enough of the Clintons. Why did she lose? Can't figure it out. Oh, no, the Russians did it. You know, again, more women voted for Trump than Clinton. And also the lie about the white male vote. As many white males voted for Trump as they did for Mitt Romney. And again, these were two of the most unpopular presidential candidates America's had in modern history. So that's what's going on. It's a freak show. Again, look at the UK. Look at the freak you got running there. It's a house of freaks. Go to France, freaks. It's a freak show. And everybody bows down to the freaks.
Final question. We'll talk about North Korea in a future program when it gets closer to, you know, Trump meeting Kim Jong-un, if that ever happens. But before you do go, to be fair to you, and I always give credit where it's due, Gerald has been talking about Iran for a long time. Yesterday in the Telegraph newspaper, which again for listeners overseas is a broadsheet, national broadsheet newspaper here. It's a conservative newspaper. They printed an article written by Richard Dannat. Now, he is famous. He's an army guy. He was a former chief of the General Staff. And he wrote this opinion piece in the Telegraph yesterday that effectively said war with Iran, conflict with Iran is inevitable. And he wasn't necessarily saying UK, Iran. He was basically saying Israel is going to be in an armed conflict with Iran. If you don't believe me, go to telegraph.co.uk. The article is there. And he said the UK has to choose a side. It's basically got to get involved. So this year, the Israelis are pushing like mad for action on Iran that goes beyond sanctions and words. The Israelis want to bomb the hell out of the place. Now you have this guy saying, you know, very senior military figure here saying war with Iran is inevitable. We better nail our colours to the mast. This aligns, Gerald, with what you've been talking about for some time now.
Oh, yeah, that's our greatest concern. It's not only Israel. And again, who's this little clown to say what we should do? Yeah. This is what I'm talking about. Who the hell are these people saying what we should do? And they all do it in every country. Anyway, our greatest concern is the Israeli, Saudi, and American trio against Iran. And that's where we see this exploding. And you're seeing, for example, you know what the unemployment rate in Saudi Arabia is? It's almost 13%. 2/3 of the jobs are government jobs. They have problems there. The war they started in Yemen is now it's starting to blow back into Saudi Arabia as missiles are going now. Yes, this Monday, one almost hit a chemical plant in Aramco, one of their chemical gas plants, being sent over from Yemen. And Israel, look at the trouble that Netanyahu's in. When all else fails, they take you to war. And that's what we're looking at here. And again, when you have a guy like that other guy, Lieberman, the defense secretary of Israel, saying that they will not tolerate Iran being in Syria. Who the hell are you to tell what Iran should be doing in Syria? Oh, I forgot. You're the chosen people. You could tell anybody. We got that little clown, little Chucky Schumer over here. You want to talk about an elitist? The senator from New York said the reason the Palestinians are having problems with Israel and other nations, you ready for this? You can look this up. They don't believe in the Torah, and in the Torah it says God gave us this land.
Yeah.
Who you talking to?
It's in the Bible.
Who you talking to? I'll tell you who you're talking to. You're talking to a bunch of low-life people who buy your crap and bow down to you. And you want to talk about elitists? Save it, Jack. I got my own Torah belief. And it's not yours. Don't you shove yours on me. But people won't say that. This is an arrogant, elitist attitude. I had enough of this chosen people stuff. You weren't chosen above me or anybody else. Let's call it equal. Maybe you can handle that.
That's a brilliant way to end it today. Here on that comment, by the way, on that sentiment, Gerald. Folks, go to trendsresearch.com. Subscribe to the Trends Journal. Take my word from it. I don't recommend very much. In fact, I don't recommend anything. Always love hearing from you, Gerald. Thanks for your time today. I know you've got other engagements, so I will let you get to those. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thanks for everything.
And thank you for having me on, and thank you for all you're doing. By the way, keep your eye on these markets. A lot of volatility ahead.
Follow the Trends Journal, folks. Thanks, Gerald. Great to hear from you again. The great Gerald Celente live on the line to us from New York City this afternoon. Great to have him back on the show.